Well, welcome everybody to Conversations with Career Coaches. I'm Terrence Seamon, and on behalf of the St. Matthias Employment Ministry here in Somerset, New Jersey, I want to welcome this episode's guest, Cathy McCafferty Smith. Welcome, Cathy.
Hi, nice to meet you all.
Cathy is the author of this book, Career Map, which is really an excellent workbook, guidebook to discovering your purpose. I ordered this some months ago after I first met Cathy online, and it's really quite good. And as I was going through it, I kept thinking, did I write this? which to me indicated how closely aligned I felt with what I was reading in Cathy's work here, Career Map. So I strongly encourage you to think about picking that up this year or giving it to a friend. Cathy, it's so great to be with you. And I was wondering if you could just tell us briefly, what was the genesis of the book?
The genesis of the book was a kick in the seat of the pants. I hang around with two or three national authors that created a curriculum that you guys, I know you know about it, Terrence. I think you do too, Tony. They're called career development facilitators, and they work in schools, HR. In our case, it's called Michigan Works, but they're employment agencies for the government, that kind of stuff. And one of the things that they struggled with is they weren't I'm a master's degree career counselor. So I can do a lot of those high-end assessment tools, but they couldn't, and they needed to know things, and they needed to help people understand. And I probably will throw a couple of those questions today at you so you can play with them. But because of that, I created the book so that they would have some open question things that work just as good. And they worked for HR people to help, do employee relations kinds of things and help people to get to the right job that they need internally. So it's a living, breathing book. It's kind of a self-look, and it's good for all ages. I use it with millennials in a campus ministry. Actually, I think they're Gen Zs now. All the way up to retire, reload and refire type people that are doing it again. Or maybe you've had a career for a while and you kind of like it, but you want a little bit more than where you are. So it's for all ages. So it's kind of convenient. It makes you think. Let me give you a real quick example. This would be your first homework assignment if you want to do it. What do other people say positively about you? Mm-hmm. Because here's why. One of the things that we look for in HR is a reference check when we're going to hire you. What other people say positively about you says more about you than what you can say, because we're humble, right? So I always use that trick in the, tell me about yourself question interview. Let me tell you what other people have said about me positively, and you get to brag all over the place. So it makes it easier on you, because when you're in job search, you're feeling a little vulnerable. You're not so confident. You should be, you try to be, but there's still that little thing in the back of your mind. This is all new. So that's a freebie. Tell them what other people tell about you. That's the easiest way to do a pre-reference check in an interview to wow them up front.
Very good. And you can also do that in your LinkedIn profile in the About box. You can include comments from clients, customers, people that have done business with you, that have written you nice little notes about how great you are. Why not use that?
Well, and
Cathy,
one of the things that I do is I collect those so that I encourage myself while I'm on a job and things are not going well. Mm-hmm. You got a leader that you're in, battle with or something like that. It's good to go back. I call it a praise file. You did something good. When you're feeling discouraged, it's a good thing to go back to. Mm.
Cathy, one of the things that, one of the gifts that you gave me when I first met you online, I think it was perhaps via Kenneth Lang, I'm not sure, might have been, was you gave me a new term that I started to think about and use, and that term is net giving. Talk a little bit about net giving and how it relates to and is supportive of networking.
Well, I'll tell you from a personal standpoint, I kind of look for patterns. It's just a natural strength I have. That happens and it's like this, and that's like that. I've had 7 jobs, and all 7 of them were net givers that pointed me to somebody. In other words, they either referred me, One of them got aggravated with me because I had a posting that I sent to her for her students in a college. She sent it back to me and said, "Why are you sending this to me? This job is perfect for you. Go after it." And I did, and it was one of the biggest jobs I've ever had. So people that see you doing, it fits with what we just talked about. If people are seeing you in action doing good, then you got the reference check to say and believe that you might want to try that. I mean, we take it for granted, but net giving, and in my life, excuse me, I got a little bit of a frog today. In my life, the more I give, the more it seems to come back to me. I don't know if it's like that for everybody, but I do a lot of things pro bono. I do things sometimes for paychecks, and sometimes I do it just because I want to help, like my new adopted brother, Terrence, because he's a cool guy. So people, when they see you be generous to someone else, it bumps their perspective of you, but it also creates a great deal of influence. At least that's what I've learned in my life.
Yes, I think so. So net giving, is that was that originated by Bob Berg, or was that something that you came up with, Cathy?
Bob Berg is the go-giver, and I
The
like his
go-giver.
stuff just as much. Tommy Spalding is an author that he does leadership development for young people, and I have a heart for young people too. So I think that's the first place I saw it. And he's got a nifty grid inside of his book. I think it's called "It's Not Just Who You Know." And inside of it, there are the basement level relationships that are just kind of your acquaintances, all the way up to the, penthouse level. And he defines each of the levels and how you get there, and tells a number of stories of how he learned that principle and how many people came and helped him along the way. Some of the biggest, players in the country are part of his leadership development now. But it was actually a story about a bartender that he was waiting for somebody, and they pivots back and forth. And I'll not tell you anymore because I'm taken away from the story, but that was the first shot. There's a number of, if you do net giving as a search, there's a number of books out on it now, probably 2 or 3 of them at least. But I'm a natural giver anyway. So to me, I don't know about any of you, but I hate networking. Absolutely hate it. But when I can do something and exchange, and my probably what I do most in net giving is hope I know somebody, or Tony, I know somebody, and I'm going to connect you to them in some way so that you have a warm call rather than a cold call. But Terrence and I both have something else in common. I started a career transition ministry. We ended up with 100 churches because we created a consortium back in the 2009 crash back then. And the more I gave, the more I ended up speaking. They would just say, "Hey, you like doing this and you don't mind doing this, and I don't accept paychecks for it." I'd go, and then I would meet tons of people. And once they got to work, they were a network for me because I kept in touch with some of them. So you build your network by net giving, and people remember you and they want to take your call.
Yep, I think there's a real power in the idea of net giving, and I would encourage everybody to give that some thought. Cathy and I had a little conversation just before we started this recording, and we were thinking, let's do a little survey of the group. So if everybody would open up their chat box, I'm going to just pose a question, and if you would, just type in your answer, and I'll keep track of it. And Cathy, if you can see it in your chat, go ahead and follow along too. We're curious if you here today are looking for work, thinking about looking for work, or working and happy. How would you describe your current situation? Just type in a little answer, and we'll take a look at what comes in. Put that into chat and direct it to everyone, if you would, if you're comfortable with sending it to everyone. And that way it should zoom past. So Tony's working and happy, but always open to talking to new people. Anna says working, but looking for something new. Okay. Anybody else?
Mine answering.
I hear somebody typing.
Well, and while we're waiting for input, one of the questions that I asked Terrence before we even started today was, how many are leaving jobs because they need something new for whatever reason, or how many people have been asked to leave because companies are shrinking and they're doing some downsizing, because you're in a different place when it's happening to you and you didn't choose.
That's
So,
right.
so privately, I'm Cathy McCafferty Smith. If you've lost a job because you've lost a job because you couldn't keep it because they decided for you, those are the people that I like to have offline on LinkedIn and have some conversations. I have been let go, excuse me, having to do this when I start to speak. I had been let go of one job, a six-figure executive job. And it was hard because I'm the one that created the downsizing program in the first place because I was HR. So I escorted myself out somehow. And that's not easy to do. But I've also fired myself from a job that didn't fit. I had all the elements were wonderful, but I had two bad bosses that I need to leave behind because I couldn't work for them. So when you make a decision or someone makes a decision for you, it creates a different kind of thinking in your mind and in your heart.
Yes.
And that we take into consideration too. So some of the things that I say will fit both sides, but sometimes if you've been let go, I have a sensitivity to that because I've been there. It's not easy and it hurts.
Yeah,
I'm also a licensed counselor, but I do coaching because I don't want to be a therapist. But one of the things I specialized in, should anybody need to have somebody to talk to, is I specialized in grief counseling from the mental health point of view because I love career development. I know when you lose something important to you, like a career or a person or even a pet, it diminishes your function for a little while because you got to go through that grieving process. So we understand that. So for those of you that have lost a job, this is harder for you in some ways.
Yes.
And I have empathy for that.
Yes. So, Cathy, one of the folks on the Zoom today indicated that their company is reorganizing and they will be cutting positions. So this individual is starting to look for something new. And I'm wondering, what would your advice be for someone who sees the handwriting on the wall and knows it's just a matter of time, and they're beginning to look for something new? Just some general guidelines or suggestions that occur to you?
I have been here before when this was happening in my organization. One is you do your absolute best work while you're still there, because when you ask for a reference check, and you should, from somebody, whether it's a colleague, whether it's a leader, whether it's somebody in the organization that's not even in your area, you want to have a good reputation when you leave, because that reference check is going to help you. And if you can get it in writing, I actually asked the senior executive for a recommendation letter after she let me go because it was funding and that kind of stuff. Because I used to be her coach on the side, and she put that in the letter for me. And that was 6 months after I left, and she still was willing to do that. So, and in our meeting when there were 80 of us let go because of funding, I grabbed the mic because it was getting kind of volatile. And I said, what we do is legacy. It's a reference check. Everything you do from the point that you find out that it's going to happen, you got to live what you believe in as the highest level that you can and ask for those letters. I mean, it doesn't have to be somebody directly leading you, but if it's the what do other people say about you that I want to hear from an HR standpoint.
Great, great thoughts. Another attendee typed in a private message, and I'll just paraphrase it, that she left a job that she loved, but had to make the decision because it was not a good situation with the boss. But it was the right thing for her to do for her own mental health, her own sanity.
Yep. And I've had an experience, best job I ever had, the one I learned the most in. I had two senior leaders that were not living what they said they were. And it's very, very difficult to be under that kind of leadership. But it's the same kind of concept we just talked about. If you're leaving, still try to collect those, good words from other people. Because not only do you need it for job search, but you need it for your own heart. Because even when I call it, I tell everybody that job I fired myself. And that causes them to ask me why. And one of the things that, and I don't know if anybody else is interested in this, but one of the things I did, because this was an industry I'd never worked in before, 4 years later, I'm doing succession planning to the executive level. I decided to be an entrepreneur because I've got 6 entrepreneurs in my family. And I thought, if I can do it for a big company, I can do it for a little me. So sometimes when people fire themselves, they create their own. And that's a healthy thing too, because if you loved it, you're going to keep doing it.
Yep, yep. In the last few years, Cathy, I've been, I don't know, I guess the universe is just sending these kinds of people my way. I've been working a lot with clients who are, let's call them mature, right? They're north of 50. In fact, I have one new client right now who's in his mid 70s. I kid you not. And each one of these individuals obviously is a unique case, but in general, they all want to continue to work. They all want to stay in the game. They still feel vital. They feel energized, like they have more to give, and there's more runway, as some sometimes say. But they also are thinking of the R word, retire. They keep thinking, should I be retiring? And I know you've got some thoughts on a different way of thinking about retiring, Cathy. Would you jump into that?
Yep, I got a couple of recommendations book-wise to take you further than what I'm going to say, but basically I'm going to borrow the title from one of them. It's Don't Retire, Refire, Reload, go in a different direction or go in the same direction, do it on your own. And most of it, here's one of the career map questions that I like best, and it has the most impact, put it that way. If you can decide what makes you mad, what makes you glad, or what makes you sad in the world or in the workplace, either one, what are you going to do about it? Because the fuel and passion that you get from something that makes you sad, mad, or glad it's fuel, period. It just will keep you going. And one of the books that I like a lot for this, because it's a whole person look, it's not just job look, it's called Don't Retire or Refire, Don't Retire by Ken Blanchard. He's one of the authors. So if you're in that point, and quite frankly, I'm in that point, I'm semi-retired. I took what I knew in all of my jobs previously, and I made myself an entrepreneur coach and trainer, and I go where I want to go. I'm a strength finders trainer. I do some things with Myers-Briggs that is kind of fun. I bring fun into leadership development because I have to have fun. I have to be creative. And I need to be my own boss because I just don't do well with bosses that are kind of, command and control. Yeah. Supportive bosses, and I've had them. I want to be that. I want to be a multiplier rather than a subtractor. So if you take stock of who you are, what your passion is, mad, glad, or sad, and you would probably do it even if nobody paid you a dime because you love it that much. You're probably going to get paid pretty well because you'll find somebody that needs that. But those are the kind of core things that I usually encourage people. If you can't stop doing it, then don't stop doing it. And it can be a job or a task. It can be like, I'm very creative. I'm a quote maker. I've had them in shows for art shows and things like that. I've gotten ribbons and things like that. I can't stop creating. I just can't. So it goes in my trainings. It goes in what I do in my life. It goes in my ministry with campus kids that are, 18 to 21. Creativity is a core value or a core trait of mine. I can't turn it off. What can you not turn off? It's got to keep going. That's what will fuel you.
Very good. Very good. So don't retire, refire, rekindle your own core values.
And to be honest with you, right now, we're in a critical juncture we've never been in. We have 5 generations in the workplace. And I think the concept of mentoring is expanded in a different way. I have a 31-year-old editor who is my mentor. I always have a younger mentor than me because I need to know how to keep current with what's going on, or I'm going to be an old buzzard real fast here, that kind of thing. So I think when you can give back to a campus university environment or a church or a place of worship, type of thing when you could meet some of them. My favorite remembrance of my own son, who's now in his 40s, I'm an ancient person now. We used to do these activities in our local church where we did a cleanup day once a year or twice a year. I think we did it in the spring and the fall, and all the generations would come together. We'd paint, we'd clean, we'd get the parking lot, and then we'd have this big picnic out there, potluck at the end. And my vivid memory was a white-haired gentleman with a broom chasing my teenage son. We were better back then at intersecting generations than we are now. And so we're going to probably get to, because I know Terrence like this. Do you want me to launch into personal board of directors at this point?
I was just about to ask you that. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. See, he's my new adopted brother. He reads my mind. We're so much alike. So one of the things that I teach, and it's in the book, is that when you're making decisions, when you're under real emotional stress, they're not always good they're not always good. They're not the best decisions, so to speak. So you need some anchors to ground you, or it could be something fantastically new and cool, and you still need people around you. So I've created for myself my own personal board of directors. Terrence and I met when I was speaking on this. And so I'm going to give you some of the characteristics or the descriptors of what I chose for myself. They're just guides. You can choose who you want to. But one of the people that I most value, because I'm a nonstop talker, as you can tell, I have an introverted listening partner who used to be my executive assistant, and she's my best friend for the last 25 years, and she's an introvert. So she thinks different than I do, and she sees things that I miss. So I always have a quiet one on every team because of her, because introverts listen and take in information and they don't say a word for a long time, and you think they're not engaged, but at the end, if you go talk to them, they're a wealth of information. So she sees things that I don't, and she's my sounding board. So I need a sounding board to double check my mouthy self. So that's my first one. My second one, I described to her. Emily's my editor. She's 31. She made the career map book look good and make me look good. I'm not so sure I did all the work. I'm pretty sure she did a lot. But she gave me the wisdom of how to reach young people through the process. And I gave her the wisdom of how to reach mature people in the process. So we learn from each other. So reverse mentors are kind of essential nowadays. We got 5 generations in the workplace. You're bound to have somebody around you that's younger than you or in your life. And they may give you some insights, even from a job search point of view, because their thinking is different than ours. The next one is I have role models. I always find somebody who's a influence leader. I say this all the time in my leadership audiences: relationship will take you where authority won't. So I look for those relational leaders to get feedback from, because I don't always trust the ones that are like bottom line command and control, and all they care about is the dollars type stuff. I need somebody with heart. So having a role model like that, or a mentor of some sort, is one of mine. So somebody that supports you, that kind of sticks with you and can tell you the not so good stuff about you, and you can handle it because they're supportive of you. So it's kind of a coach, because you're unique and they're unique and they know you fairly well. Or you can get to know each other, because that's one of the ways to get to know each other well. I always have somebody that's a support that I can bounce things off of. My networking network is big. Terrence is one of them. We both have somebody named Brenda Miller. She's a LinkedIn genius. Anything I want to know about LinkedIn, I call her. But she's a net giver. We met in the career transition days of the past when we both worked. She was a speaker, I was a speaker. We kept running into each other. We taught each other things, and I was her. She calls me her career fairy godmother, because I helped her to avoid a disaster when she was let go. So, sometimes you're teaching it on one side of the, podium, and on the other time you're the victim, so to speak. We've been victims at different times, and we both helped each other. So, and she's my LinkedIn genius. If you don't know Brenda Miller, you should know Brenda Miller, because she can teach you anything you want to know. She's got a wonderful book called Social Media Pie. It's spectacular. It'll teach you anything you want to know about LinkedIn. The big one, and it was an accident, was when I was in the career ministry before. A person that I met that wanted me to speak for her like I am now, had been downsized from Chrysler, and she happened to be in Merrill Lynch as a financial advisor, and I happened to have a Merrill Lynch account with no advisor attached to it. So we met each other, and she's my finance person. She manages my money and retirement and stuff and all that good stuff, and helps me to stay on track. Because one of the pieces that I was smart enough to do is I put myself on a salary that I lived on throughout my whole career that was lower than what I made, and I saved the rest. I gave myself a budget of about $2,500 a month to live on, and I never let myself have any more than that. So she's invested it all, and I look pretty good. And now I can do this stuff because, the finances are taken care of. So it's you need a financial person in a volatile environment like today to watch and help you with that kind of stuff. So that's one of mine. I've never served as a senior executive in my entire life, but all I've ever done is pal with them, partner with them, build things with them. I'm the kind of strategic planning OD kind of person. So anything that goes on in an organization, they come and get me. But I always have an executive sponsor. An executive sponsor is different than an executive mentor. A sponsor is somebody who will open a door for you. They'll make a connection to somebody else for you. Sounds like Terrence might have an opinion on that.
No, I'm just agreeing.
So we can get mentors, but mentors come and go, but sponsors usually follow you in your career, usually where you go different places. And I had one, his name was Bob. He was a person that I worked with. He gave me my first job. And I got to tell you this, because some of you will probably say, I've never been a leader. And I'm going to tell you, oh, yes, you have. If you're not a leader, you're an influence to somebody. And influential leadership is more important than title is. So Bob, I was upset in a team of students. We were volunteering to make an internship program better. And there was a particular graduate assistant from another program that was the leader of that team. And she was never present, never accessible. She was driving me crazy, and everybody's coming to me, telling me this. So I went to Bob, because everybody was afraid to sit with Bob. He's the department chair. And I said, blah, 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 like that. And I was really aggravated. And he said, you sound like you're pretty passionate about leadership. Would you like to lead this team? And I gulped and almost fell off the chair. But he ended up being a sponsor for me for years. In each job that I went, he seemed to know the people I needed to know in the next level. So he would be an advocate for me. Those people are priceless. So if you can find a sponsor that believes in you, that'll open a door for you, whether it's a LinkedIn connect or whether it's a physical connect, they're good to have. The other one is I have thinking partners. I like to do like Terrence and I are doing. I don't want to speak to you by myself. I like having a partner, because there's different perspectives, there's different genders, there's different ages, that kind of stuff. That way we can meet the needs of an audience better if we're different. So I try to have somebody that's a thinking partner that's younger, older, and equal. So that and sometimes male and female too. That helps me to do the things that I do as a trainer better. And excuse me, this is for those of you that believe in faith. This is not for anybody that doesn't, never want to offend, but I always have a prayer partner and encourager. I'm a God girl, I admit it, and I like it because he walks with me and that kind of stuff. So whatever faith system that you're in, or if you'd like to be in, having somebody that kind of takes care of that spiritual side of you and encourages you. In my faith, we have spiritual gifts that are in a particular book that we all agree on, and encourager is mine. I like to encourage people. So I look for encouragers because I need them, but I also give it a lot too. So it's a place for the giving side of you. You probably have a knack at something that's very good, that helps other people. So using that, but I have an encourager that I can call up any time, day or night, that used to be a coworker actually, but she's still my prayer partner. So those are mine. You can create any category you like that you need, but those are samples of people that I've put in my life. And I think that I make better decisions with my wise counsel personal board of directors than I do on my own. Any
Kathy,
questions?
that concept of the board of directors, to me, just feels so empowering. And many of us hearing this idea, listening to it and reflecting upon it, we probably have people like that in our life. We just maybe never thought of it as our board of directors. But I would encourage everybody, take that to another level. Take it to that level that Kathy's talking about, where these are individuals that you can rely upon, thinking partners, advisors. Kathy, you have definitely been a thinking partner for me during this episode of Conversation with Career Coaches. And I want to thank you for giving of your time to all of us here today and those that will watch the playback of this session on our YouTube channel, Conversation with Career Coaches. So Kathy, thank you. I thought I would close by just paraphrasing what one of the participants put into the chat box, where she wrote, when people retire, it's a new chapter in life. And I really think that we all, as we're managing our career, we are moving from chapter to chapter to chapter. And I think it's great to have, something like what Kathy has created in her book, Career Map, something like that to help us to think about that new chapter that we're about to start or thinking of opening, whether it's a new job or whatever. And so, Kathy, thanks so much for being here today. Any final words before we close?
When you were saying that, if you build them, they will come. I think that you can draw people to you if you do some of the things that I'm talking about, and it's in your best interest.
Exactly. Well, listen, everybody, have a great day, week, and springtime. It was good to see you here all today. Conversations with Career Coaches will be back next month. See you then.